They slid a curfew into my mailbox like it was a courtesy card. Be indoors by 7 p.m. And I laughed out loud because that's the sort of thing you only see in dystopian movies, not stapled to your own property. But then I realized they meant it, and laughing turned ugly. Let me back up a sec. My name's Garrett Wells, I'm 46, grew up with grease under my nails and a hammer in my hand, and 7 years ago I bought 28 acres in the Colorado foothills because I wanted one simple thing. Quiet, not committees, not color charts for mailboxes. Just land that remembers the people who work it, you know what I mean? For 5 years it was exactly that. A stone chimney, exposed beams, a porch that begged for a rocking chair, some rescue horses, chickens that bossed the yard, and a gravel road that led to everything. The only way in or out, county-owned and legal. Then Silver Hills Reserve happened. Developers with clean boots and louder logos carved a curated neighborhood into the hills behind my place, and with it came an HOA that treated community like a brand. Enter Karen Ridman, clipboard, windbreaker, trail runners that had never seen dirt, president of the HOA, smiling like sunshine until you got close enough to see the frost behind it. At first she was neighborly, asking about drainage and tile, bringing a weirdly shiny signal flare pistol as a gift for safety on hikes. I laughed and said I didn't get lost. She grinned and left the pistol like a promise. Small things shifted. Newsletters slipped under my latch about good neighbors. A landscaping crew trimmed boundary trees without asking. Surveyors wandered the strip of county road like tourists with power, and anonymous complaints started appearing at county offices. I filed deeds, inspection certificates, everything that said this land was mine. Deeds notarized, county plats clean. And when the HOA's lawyers demanded I stop unapproved construction, I took it to court. The judge ruled in my favor. No HOA jurisdiction, injunction issued, damages awarded, and Karen was supposed to back off. Silence followed. The dangerous kind that makes you check the cameras twice. And then the harassment resumed, subtle and surgical. Cones placed on the road, fake maintenance signs, phantom inspectors who left with nothing. And one night a laminated HOA flyer on my gate calling my land unregulated and a public risk. I kept a folder titled HOA Nonsense, and I started bolting cameras to trees and the old water tower, because paranoia costs less than surprise. Then the world fell apart in a grind and a groan, which is the least poetic way to put it. On a cold night when the gravel gave way, and my truck dropped into a hidden pit they'd carved into the access lane, boards and tarp laid over it like a staged trick. 1 second the road was familiar, the next my truck was twisting, metal screaming, windshield spiderwebbed, ribs slamming the wheel, legs pinned under the dash, air gone from my lungs and the cold crawling in. No phone, no radio, no help. Only that orange flare pistol Karen had given me, a ridiculous piece of brass and plastic that suddenly felt like a life sentence or a lifeline. I fired flares into the black until my fingers cramped, until red smoke arced like a bloody scar across the sky, and finally headlights and voices and the blessed sound of sirens. They cut me out of the wreck, they patched me up, and later, in a hospital bed that smelled like antiseptic and truth, Michelle, my attorney, showed me footage from the cameras I'd installed, and what I saw turned my blood cold. Karen walking the road at midnight, measuring tape in hand, marking the gravel, pointing her phone at a spot where later men would dig, a convoy unloading shovels and a small excavator, and then, the worst, workers placing boards over a 10-foot trench and leaving it unmarked and unlit. It wasn't an accident. It was a trap. Someone had dug a hole, they'd hidden it, and they'd removed any warning that might have kept me from driving straight into it. The footage had a name attached to it, Karen, hair-pinned, pointing like a foreman. The DA took it immediately, subpoenas flew, and the phones in Silver Hills started ringing off the hook. You expect denial at first, PR statements, a crafted apology, fruit baskets. But once the cameras talk, people start remembering things they were afraid to say. Here's the twist that split the story open. The excavation crew's leader, Anthony Rogers, turned. He walked into the sheriff's office clutching paperwork and a conscience, and he told the truth. Karen paid cash, no permits, no county notices, orders to leave the pit open overnight, no reflectors. We were told it was a message, he said. Not meant to actually hurt him. The kind of sentence that makes you want to believe in human decency and then slaps you because he helped set it up. But he cooperated, and cooperation matters. On the legal side, Leon, an old friend turned IT guy, pulled logs that showed someone inside the HOA's building tried to access my camera feeds the night before I got hurt, and he recovered audio of Karen whispering on a walkie. He's resisting, get ready. Those pieces, along with Jane the board member's leaked thread that called me an obstacle, and the HOA's promotional material that photoshopped my pasture into their marketing, made a mountain of proof. The DA moved fast, search warrants at the HOA office, hard drives and budget ledgers seized, evidence of funds flowing to shell vendors, an item labeled Special Operations Infrastructure Conflict Mitigation that paid for the trench, and text messages where Karen wrote, "Leave the pit open through the weekend, no reflectors," language that stripped any pretense away. The story hit the news like a thrown rock. HOA president charged after rancher falls in trap, and the guardrails of local civility snapped. Court felt surreal, my legs in casts, my chest wrapped tight, Michelle beside me like a general, the prosecution laying out emails, video, and Anthony's statement, and the defense trying to scrub humanity off the page with legalese. Jurors watched the footage of Karen directing the dig and heard the text messages, and when the prosecution played the audio where she said, "He won't be harmed, maybe he'll learn what it means to live near a shared space," the air in the courtroom got thin. Guilty, on felony counts that carried real years, and the judge called it what it was, deliberate harm cloaked in governance. Karen got 23 years, the crew leader took a plea for cooperation, and the HOA was dismantled, its accounts frozen, assets seized, and the community left picking at the rot she'd hidden under meetings and wine nights. Villainy cloaked in for the good of the neighborhood had a lot of victims, people's savings, reputations, a few marriages, but it also made a lot of people willing to talk. After the verdict, the world calmed in a way I hadn't expected. Not peace exactly, but a clearing. The county repaved the road, they put up proper signage, and someone suggested a little plaque where the pit had been, but I told them no, let the road speak for itself. I mounted the flare pistol in a frame over the fireplace, polished and harmless, with a brass plate that says nothing fancy, just the reminder that sometimes a ridiculous little object can buy you an hour, and an hour can be everything. I used the civil settlement not as a trophy but as a tool. Half went to a rural emergency response fund, because the truth is small towns don't always get the support they need, and the rest fixed fences, bought solar panels for the barn, and paid bonuses to the rescue crew who risked their lives. We started a tiny nonprofit to help folks dealing with overreaching neighborhood governance, legal clinics, tech audits, a hotline, because if one HOA can weaponize community, others might try. Walking the pasture after all of it was the real closure, the kind that doesn't show up on TV. I sat on the porch, coffee cooling, dogs at my feet, and watched the sun turn the ridge gold, and for the first time since that night, I felt something like quiet settle back into the land. Not naive peace, a guarded, earned quiet. Scars remain, sure, and every now and then the knees ache when the weather turns, but the acres are mine, and the road is safe. So here's the question I want to leave you with, because I think about it late. When a group says it's acting for the community, who gets to decide what that community is? The people who live it, with dirt under their nails, or the people who can buy influence and sell narratives? If you've ever been pushed around by an institution that wore a smile and a letterhead, tell me how you handled it. Did you fight, fold, or find a third way? Drop your story below. Argue with me if you want. And if this hit a nerve, share it with someone who's had to stand up to the polite face of power. Sometimes the only thing that saves us is speaking up, and sometimes that voice starts with one flare in the dark.